The smell of burnt rubber and gasoline clung to everything at the racetrack. To most people, it was just noise and chaos, the roar of engines, the sharp tang of oil in the air, the endless hum of mechanics shouting at each other over drills and clanging tools. But to me, it was home. Unfortunately, it was also his kingdom. Adrian Cole. My so-called rival. The man I couldn't seem to escape, no matter how many races I won or how many podiums I stood on. He was always there, cold, unreadable, like a storm you could see building on the horizon but could never predict when it would strike. And he hated me. At least, that's what I told myself. It was easier that way. I tossed my helmet onto the bench and wiped the sweat from my forehead with the back of my glove. My heart was still hammering from the practice laps. When I looked up, there he was, leaning against his car, arms folded across his chest, expression carved from stone. His racing suit clung to him in a way that made me grit my teeth. Everything about him was too precise. Too perfect. "Your turns are sloppy," Adrian said flatly, as if he were commenting on the weather. "If you keep cutting in that early, you'll spin out by the third lap." I snorted. "Thanks for the coaching, Dad. Don't you have your own car to worry about?" He didn't blink. He never did. His eyes were a shade of gray that reminded me of smoke, cold, but dangerous if you got too close. They followed me like he was dissecting me, peeling back layers I didn't even want to admit were there. I forced myself to grin, cocky and sharp, the way I always did around him. "Then again, maybe you should worry about me. I saw your times. You're not as fast as everyone thinks." His jaw tightened, just slightly. That was the only sign I had gotten under his skin. Adrian never raised his voice, never lashed out. He didn't need to. He could cut you down with silence, with that calm, calculating stare. And yet, for reasons I couldn't explain, I wanted to push him. To make him snap. Our rivalry wasn't just about racing. Everyone thought it was, but I knew better. I could feel it in the air when we stood too close, in the heat of his gaze when he thought I wasn't looking. There was something dangerous between us, something I couldn't name without choking on it. I grabbed a water bottle and took a long drink, mostly so I wouldn't say something reckless. The truth was, I hated how much he got to me. I hated that the tension between us didn't feel like hate at all. Later that evening, after practice was over and the pit crew had gone home, I stayed behind. I told myself it was to fine-tune my car, but really, I just couldn't shake the restless energy buzzing under my skin. The garage was quieter then, the only sounds the ticking of cooling engines and the occasional creak of metal settling. I was bent over the hood of my car when I heard footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. "You don't know when to quit," Adrian's voice came from behind me, calm as always. I smirked without lifting my head. "Neither do you, apparently. Or do you just enjoy watching me work?" That got his attention. I heard the pause, felt the weight of his silence. When I finally straightened and turned around, he was closer than I expected, too close. His presence filled the space, cold and steady, but I could feel the heat radiating from his body. He didn't step back. Neither did I. "You're reckless," he said quietly. "On the track, off the track. One day it's going to catch up to you." I rolled my eyes, but my pulse betrayed me, thrumming hard in my throat. "And what? You'll be there to lecture me? Or do you secretly hope I'll crash so you can finally stop coming in second?" His gaze darkened, and for a moment, I thought he might actually shove me. Instead, his hand brushed past mine, reaching for the rag on the hood. Our fingers touched, just for a second, but it was enough. Enough to send a jolt down my spine, enough to make me freeze like I'd been caught doing something I shouldn't. He didn't move. Neither did I. The air between us crackled, sharp and unbearable. I laughed too loudly, trying to cover the way my chest felt tight. "Careful, Cole. People will think you actually like me." For the first time, his lips curved, just slightly. Not a smile, not exactly, but something darker. Something that made my stomach flip. "You think too much about what people think," he murmured. I swallowed hard, suddenly aware of just how close we were, how easy it would be to lean forward and... I shook the thought away. But Adrian didn't move. His eyes locked on mine, steady, unblinking as if he could see right through the mask I wore. And maybe he could. "Tell me something," he said finally, voice low. "Why do you always go out of your way to challenge me? It's like you want my attention." The words hit harder than they should have. My first instinct was to laugh, to deflect, to throw back some sharp remark. But my throat was dry, and my heart was racing too fast. "I challenge you," I forced out, "because you're in my way." Simple as that. Adrian studied me for a long moment, then stepped closer, so close I had to tilt my head back slightly to meet his gaze. The scent of engine grease and leather clung to him, mixed with something warmer, something that made me dizzy. "Liar," he whispered. The word was soft, but it cut deep. Before I could react, his hand brushed mine again, intentional this time. My breath caught, and I hated that he could hear it. For a split second, I thought he was going to kiss me. I wanted him to. God help me, I wanted him to. Instead, he pulled back, leaving me cold in the sudden distance. His expression was unreadable again, walls snapping back into place. "Get some rest," he said, turning toward his car. "You'll need it tomorrow." And just like that, he was gone, leaving me standing there with my pulse racing and my mind spinning. I clenched my fists, trying to convince myself it was just rivalry, just hate. But deep down, I knew better. Something was building between us, and it was only a matter of time before it exploded. Race day always brought a different kind of electricity. The crowd's roar, the flash of cameras, the smell of burning fuel, it all wrapped around me like a storm I couldn't escape. My adrenaline was a drug, and today, it was running hotter than ever. But it wasn't the track that had my nerves buzzing. It was him, Adrian. He stood a few feet away, helmet under his arm, posture as perfect as always. Controlled. Like he owned the ground he walked on. And maybe he did, because everyone looked at him like he was already the winner. I hated that. Or at least, I told myself I did. The morning briefing had been a mess. The sponsors wanted Adrian front and center for photos, ignoring me like I was just the reckless underdog there to stir up drama. It ate at me, clawed at my pride, until the jealousy was sharp enough to taste. By the time the race was over, I was seething. Adrian had placed first. I came in second. And the way he looked at me as we pulled into the garage, steady, unreadable, like I was just a piece of the puzzle he'd already solved, made me want to rip him apart. I stormed into the pit, ripping off my gloves. "Congratulations," I spat, throwing my helmet onto the bench. "Another win for the great Adrian Cole. Must feel nice having the whole world worship you." Adrian followed slowly, not rising to my bait. He set his helmet down with deliberate care. "It wasn't the world. It was a race. You lost because you made the same mistake on turn 7 that I warned you about." I spun on him, heart hammering, anger boiling over. "Don't you dare act like you're some kind of mentor. You're not better than me." His gray eyes met mine, cool and steady. "But I am." The words hit like a slap, harder because they were true. And he knew it. Something in me snapped. I stepped forward, shoving my finger into his chest. "You think you're untouchable? You're not. You're nothing but a machine in a suit. No heart. No soul. Just cold metal pretending to be a man." For a moment, I thought he'd ignore it like he always did. But then his jaw tightened. His eyes burned in a way I'd never seen before. And before I could take another breath, he moved. One second I was standing there, chest heaving, spitting venom. The next, my back slammed into the garage wall, his hand gripping my collar, his body pressing into mine. The shock stole the air from my lungs. "Say it again," Adrian growled, voice low and dangerous. I froze. Not because I was scared, though maybe I should have been, but because of how close he was. His breath brushed my cheek. His grip on me was firm, unshakable, like he'd been waiting for this moment. I forced a laugh, shaky but defiant. "What, did I finally get under your skin? Took you long enough." His eyes narrowed. His hand slid from my collar to my wrist, pinning it above my head. The strength in him was terrifying, but what terrified me more was how my body responded. Heat rushing through me, pulse pounding in ways I couldn't control. "You think this is a game," he whispered, voice steady despite the fire in his eyes. But you've been playing with fire you don't understand. Something inside me cracked. My pride wanted to shove him away, to spit in his face, to scream that I hated him. But my body betrayed me. I couldn't look away from his mouth, from the tension vibrating through him like a storm about to break. Adrian, my voice caught. His grip tightened. His lips brushed my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. And then he said it. Bend over. I want to watch you take every inch. The words struck like lightning. My entire body went rigid, shock and disbelief colliding with something darker, something I didn't want to name. You're insane, I whispered, but the heat crawling up my neck, the way my legs trembled, betrayed me. Adrian pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. His expression was unreadable, but his gaze was burning, consuming. You've wanted this as much as I have. No, I shot back, desperate, my pride clawing for control. I hate you. But the word rang hollow, even to me. Adrian must have heard it too, because the corner of his mouth curved, not into a smile, but into something darker. He shifted closer, his body pressed flush against mine now, pinning me completely. Then why aren't you fighting? He whispered. My chest heaved. My hands, pinned above me, curled into fists. I wanted to fight. I should have fought. But I didn't. Because he was right. Because every nerve in my body screamed for more, not less. I hated him. I wanted him. Both truths tangled together until I couldn't tell them apart. My pride screamed at me to shove him away, to spit in his face and walk out. But the raw, aching need burning through me drowned it out. I swallowed hard, my voice breaking. But he did. His mouth crashed against mine, rough and unrelenting. It wasn't gentle, wasn't careful. It was messy, violent, hungry. Like years of tension finally snapping all at once. I gasped against his lips, then melted into it, my body betraying me completely. When he finally pulled back, both of us were breathing hard, sweat dripping down our temples. His forehead pressed to mine, and his voice came out rough, raw. This isn't hate, he said. My pride wanted to deny it. But my body knew better. The rest was a blur of heat and desperation. His hands dragging me closer, my nails digging into his suit, the two of us stumbling and colliding like we couldn't get close enough. Every touch was a spark, every kiss a firestorm. I don't know how long it lasted. Minutes, hours, it didn't matter. All I knew was that when it was over, when we finally collapsed against each other in the wreckage of what we'd just done, there was no going back. We had crossed a line. And a dangerous, thrilling secret was born. If anyone asked, Adrian and I still hated each other. On the track, in front of cameras, in every interview, it was the same routine. Sharp words, cold stares, the perfect rivalry. Fans ate it up, the sponsors loved it, and no one suspected that when the lights went out and the crowd was gone, everything changed. Because behind closed doors, Adrian wasn't my rival. He was the fire that burned through me, the shadow that consumed me whole. It started small, late nights in the garage after practice, when everyone else had gone home. He'd corner me against the hood of my car, his mouth hard on mine, hands rough as if he wanted to leave marks no one else could see. I always swore it would be the last time, that I'd never let him touch me again. But the moment he grabbed my wrist or whispered something sharp against my ear, I was lost. One night, after a long day of practice, I found myself in his hotel room. I didn't even remember how I got there. One second I was walking past his door, the next I was shoved inside, the lock clicking shut behind me. Thought you'd sneak past me? Adrian murmured, his hand pinning me against the wall. I smirked, trying to hide how fast my pulse was racing. Maybe I just didn't want to see your face anymore tonight. His lips brushed my jaw. Liar. And then he kissed me hard, and all my lies fell apart. We fell into a pattern after that. On the surface, nothing changed. We still spat insults in public, still pretended we couldn't stand to be in the same room. But every night, we found each other. Hotel rooms, empty locker rooms, even the back seat of one of the team vans once, when desperation outweighed caution. Every touch was rough, urgent, as if we couldn't stand the thought of being apart for too long. He'd push me against walls, against car hoods, whispering taunts in that low, controlled voice that made my knees weak. "You always fold so easily," he'd murmur against my skin. "All that sharp tongue, but underneath, you're already mine." And I hated how true it felt. Because the more time passed, the more I realized I was addicted. To him. To this. To the way he looked at me like he owned me. I swore I'd never submit to anyone, never let anyone break me down. But with Adrian, I was already broken. One night, after a particularly brutal race where I came in third and he took first, I barged into his room without knocking. He was still in his racing suit, half-zipped, sitting on the edge of the bed. He looked up at me with that maddening calm, and something inside me snapped. "Do you enjoy this?" I demanded. "Watching me fall apart? Watching me lose while you sit there and—" I didn't get to finish. Adrian grabbed me by the collar and yanked me forward, crashing his mouth against mine. It wasn't gentle, it never was. But this time, there was something different in it. Something fierce, almost desperate. When he pulled back, his hands still gripping my shirt, his voice was low. "I don't want to watch you lose. I want to watch you fight until you bleed. Because that's when you're real." The words hit me harder than any insult. Because underneath them, I heard something else. Something like care. It scared me more than anything. We kept stealing nights, kept feeding this fire that was eating us alive. But the more it went on, the harder it became to keep it hidden. I started noticing the way people looked at us, how close we stood during briefings, how our arguments felt too charged, too personal. One night, after sneaking back into my room at 2 in the morning, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. My neck was marked, faint bruises peeking out from my collar. My lips were swollen. I looked like someone who belonged to him. And that terrified me. Because the truth was, Adrian was changing too. He wasn't just cold and dominant anymore. He was bolder, yes, more controlling than ever, but there were cracks in his armor. Little moments when his hands lingered, softer than they should have been. When he brushed the hair from my eyes after kissing me breathless. When he whispered my name, not as a command, but like it meant something. I told myself it was nothing. That it didn't matter. That this was just lust, just obsession. But every time he touched me, every time he pulled me close and murmured something only I was allowed to hear, it felt dangerously close to love. The breaking point came one night in the garage. We'd stayed late, just the two of us. I was still fuming from practice. My car had blown a tire, costing me the best lap time I'd had in weeks. Adrian was leaning against his car, watching me pace. "You're distracted," he said. "Shut up," I snapped. He tilted his head, calm as always. "Is it me?" I froze. My heart lurched in my chest because the truth was yes, it was always him. But I couldn't admit that. So I lashed out instead. "Don't flatter yourself. You're just a mistake I keep making." Adrian's eyes darkened. In 2 steps he was on me, grabbing my wrist, slamming me against the hood of my car. My breath caught as his body pressed into mine, as his grip tightened. "You think this is a mistake?" he whispered, his voice rougher than I'd ever heard it. "Tell me again and I'll stop. Tell me you don't want this." I opened my mouth, ready to spit the words. But they wouldn't come. My throat closed, my body betraying me again. Because I did want it. I wanted him more than I could stand. Adrian's grip loosened, just slightly, as if he expected me to shove him away. Instead, I grabbed his collar and pulled him down, crashing my mouth against his. The kiss was wild, messy, desperate. And when he pulled back, his forehead pressed to mine, I saw something in his eyes that terrified me more than anything else. It wasn't just lust anymore. It was something deeper. Something I couldn't name without losing everything. And in that moment, I knew, whatever this was, it wasn't ending anytime soon. Secrets have a way of eating you alive. By now, Adrian and I were tangled so deep in ours that every breath, every heartbeat, was heavy with it. We kept up the act in public, trading barbs, avoiding each other's eyes in the paddock, throwing sparks for the cameras. But the second the doors closed, all that hate became heat. And it was destroying me. I'd always thought of myself as reckless but free. No chains, no one holding me down. But Adrian had wrapped chains around my throat, my wrists, my heart, and I kept running back for more. That's what scared me most. I wasn't just addicted to the fire, we were burning each other alive. The night it all came crashing down, the team was throwing a party after another one of Adrian's victories. Music pounded, lights flashed, and everyone was drunk on adrenaline and alcohol. I stood in the corner nursing a beer, pretending not to notice Adrian across the room, surrounded by sponsors and fans. He looked untouchable as always. Calm, perfect, that cold smile plastered on his face. But when his eyes found mine across the crowd, the air left my lungs. Even surrounded by people, he looked like he was only watching me. And that was the problem. Because if anyone else noticed, everything would come crashing down. I tore my gaze away, forcing a smirk when one of the mechanics slapped me on the back. But the heat crawling up my neck wouldn't fade. When I finally slipped out of the party, desperate for air, I didn't expect him to follow. The hallway outside the banquet room was dim and quiet, the thump of music fading behind closed doors. I leaned against the wall, rubbing a hand over my face. That's when I felt it. His presence. Adrian stepped out of the shadows like he'd been waiting for me. "You left early," he said. I barked a laugh, bitter and sharp. "What, did you want me to clap louder while everyone worshipped you?" His eyes narrowed. "You're jealous." That word lit me up like gasoline. I shoved off the wall, anger spiking. "Jealous? But what? Of you standing there like a statue while people drool over you? Please. I don't want to be you." But he was already stepping closer, his gaze cutting through me. "You don't want to be me," he murmured, "but you can't stay away from me either." Something in me snapped. I shoved him hard in the chest, my voice rising. "Shut up. You think you figured me out? You think just because I let you..." My throat closed. The words caught before I could say them. He caught my wrist, yanking me close so fast my breath hitched. His voice dropped, rougher than I'd ever heard. "You don't let me do anything. You need me to." My chest heaved, fury and shame twisting together. "You're wrong," I spat, though my body betrayed me, leaning closer instead of pulling away. His grip tightened. "Then walk away. Right now. Prove me wrong." The challenge hung between us, sharp as broken glass. My pride screamed at me to move, to tear free and leave him standing there. But my feet wouldn't move. My chest ached, my eyes burned. I hated him for it. "I can't," I whispered, voice breaking. "Damn you, Adrian, I can't." For the first time, my walls cracked. The words ripped out of me like a confession I'd been choking on for months. Anger and shame burned in my throat, but underneath it, something truer, softer, broke free. "I hate you," I said, though tears stung my eyes. "I hate how much I want you. I hate that I can't breathe without thinking about you. You've ruined me." Silence. For a moment, I thought he'd mock me, twist the knife. But Adrian's expression shifted, calm breaking into something raw, something human. He released my wrist only to cup my face, his thumb brushing the corner of my eye where a tear slipped free. "You think this is just lust?" His voice was low, almost unsteady. "You think I've spent all this time breaking you just for fun? I want you. Not your body for one night. Not your anger. I want everything. Your soul. Your fire. All of it." My heart slammed against my ribs. His words terrified me more than any race ever had, because I believed him. And I wanted it. Before I could stop myself, I grabbed his collar and kissed him like I was drowning. It wasn't the usual rough, frantic clash. It was desperate, aching, full of everything I'd tried to bury. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and for once, there was no pretense of hate. We stumbled into a dark storage room down the hall, slamming the door behind us. The world outside vanished. There was only his mouth on mine, his hands claiming me, and the way my body melted against his like it had always belonged there. This time, it wasn't just wild. It was something else. A mix of fire and tenderness that left me shaking. He whispered my name like a prayer, not a command. His touch was still firm, still dominant, but threaded with care I'd never expected. I gave in completely, every wall I'd built shattering around me. For once, I didn't fight. I didn't hide. I just let him have me. When it was over, we collapsed together, breathless, sweat slick, tangled in each other's arms on the cold floor. I buried my face against his chest, my pride too shattered to care. Adrian's hand stroked the back of my head, his voice rough but steady. This isn't ending. Not tomorrow, not ever. I lifted my head, meeting his gaze. His gray eyes burned with something I couldn't deny anymore. Not hate. Not rivalry. Something far more dangerous. A shiver ran down my spine, but I nodded. Because I already knew. Whatever this was, however wrong, however forbidden, it was ours. And it would never end. No matter the cost.